thanks to all of you who are attending online from wherever you are. So whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, welcome. And I do want to just share with those who may not be familiar with Global Chamber. We are a global business connector and facilitator, and we now have over 120 chapters around the world. And I believe we have a number of chapters present online, from Manila to Austin to Nashville, and now here in San Diego. So I'm Kuntal Warwick. I am Executive Director of Global Chamber San Diego, and we have here with us Andreas Freund, who is with Tata Consultancy Services, and Brent Beverly, who is with ScaleMatrix. And what we hope to do today is give an overview of what's happening out there in the world, what kinds of threats are we facing at this point, and what technologies exist, particularly with the companies that are here with us, and what can governments and companies and individuals do to better protect themselves, and how can we better integrate technology or cybersecurity technology into other types of technology. And Wade Barker in Nashville will share with us a little bit about the counter-terrorism industry and how cyber is being utilized there, and some of the things that he sees in that area. So with that, I will hand the floor over to Brent, and please share with us what you can about ScaleMatrix and in the data management side.
Appreciate it. So, yeah, my name is Brent Beverly. I, here at ScaleMatrix, oversee the technology, tech operations, as well as the engineering, customer support, and security. Just a very, very brief background on myself. I do, when I started my career, I ended up winding up at a very high production medical and hospital support company for one of the large insurance providers out there. From there, I stepped into a cloud servicing role where I handled and led the technology for a multi-vertical cloud computer company, and then branched into the data center and cloud servicing industry. Many of these experiences gave me a good roundabout avenue to be able to tackle many of the challenges we see today in cybersecurity. So everything from the new WannaCry that's come out, CryptoLocker that's come out, but cybersecurity is a big topic, a lot to bite off, a lot to chew. But I think now more than ever, it's something that needs to be discussed. We need to have events like this. So when you talk about ever since businesses have been connecting to the internet, you've seen cybersecurity progress in terms of kind of event-based. So a new hack happened on somebody else, so a lot of companies close up that. Or there's a new technology or innovation in terms of testing your security, so people there's loopholes. Or if a new OS comes out, that automatically goes to loopholes. It's always been event-based. I think this new era that we're stepping into, where we have to take this proactive approach. You talked about it a few years ago with the CryptoLocker virus. It opened up a lot of businesses' eyes when they had to cover their technology. From the one employee that opened up a Dropbox file that randomly got sent to them when they were expecting a check from that person doesn't do anything in that department. All of a sudden, the whole file system is locked down, and we're trying to recover from that. So that was one variable, and then we got the most recent one with the WannaCry virus, and there's many variations of it. And that devastated a lot of home users as well as businesses, more than you've seen in the past. So you have these coming out, and you're going to see more of a proactive approach for people protecting from the viruses, figuring out how are my users actually digging into the system. How are my users accessing my system? Every business has something up in the cloud. They are with the right cloud provider, with the right data center, your virtual infrastructure is secure, but you also have to do your part. Businesses flooded to the cloud when the cloud came out and everything, what really is the cloud. But businesses, started flooding to it based on industry. We saw a lot of the accounting industry go first, and we started to legal go, and then it just branched off from there to small and medium businesses. Took a lot of overhead off of the business, which is great. People could expand, people could grow without having to worry about server room, how large it is, how much equipment. You have to spend another $200,000 on storage equipment, physical equipment, and they no longer have to do that. They just go to the cloud. It's all based on how much they needed to run their business. But what they didn't do is they didn't understand that as we branched into this internet-based remote worker world, you have your staff sitting at home, accessing Facebook, accessing the internet, as well as accessing your file system, accessing your company's financial records. Companies have begun to branch into saying, hey, everything has to be private connections. So you have a profile that the employee logs into, they start the VPN. Yes, that creates a lot of security, but still, when they're in that VPN, they're on your servers, the servers essentially might have access to the internet. Are they looking at the social medias on the servers that they're connected to, or things like that? So it does come around actually having to do some stuff on your side, not just relying on your cloud provider, on your data set, on your data manager, just the traditional, hey, everything's up there, they're protecting us, doesn't do. You have to do your regular security audits. You have to move into reaching out to external vendors that can help come in and audit your environment, review your security policies. And then beyond that, standard training for your staff on best practices in security. How to, not storing certain client data on their computer. They should be storing contracts that have credit card information, stuff like that. Because someone's computer gets hacked, all of a sudden a bunch of contracts are stolen. It's just, you got to have the right practices for the company. From the data management side, you see the basically, we are diligent in making sure our security practices are upheld for cybersecurity, things like that, but we're starting to reach out more as a helping hand to our clients to help them increase their practices. And what I mean from that, it can be as large as a new security service you offer where it's beneficial, you come in, you kind of do that external review of their environment, and you bring stuff to the table for them to change, or you actually purchase things that are added to their service to help protect them, or it could be as small as a technical review. That's something we do here today, is we do technical reviews of clients' accounts, and it's something that we let all our clients know we're doing, but we don't dig into their data, but we do, hey, from our perspective, from our outside perspective, when we look into your environment, this is how you're set up. You have all your users connected through terminal services. You don't have VPNs. This is how you send and receive data. And so what we do is we try to offer low to no cost changes that can help improve the environments. Oh, absolutely. So that's been helpful for a lot of our clients here at ScaleMatrix, just because when these companies are moving to the cloud, a lot of times it helps them save, again, not just the overhead of equipment, it's saving the overhead of staff as well. So as they grow, and they grow rapidly, they're growing 200%. Some of these fast-growing companies, they don't have the right technology staff in with the right certification or security. So that's how we're able to help, is offering those additional services. And I always tell when I do these, when I do several of these lunch and learns around, we've had several of them around security recently because it's just such a big topic. People come and say, man, I lost the whole file server. Luckily, I had it all backed up, but I still lost 24 hours because most people don't back up on that hour time frame. It's every night. So you're seeing people move into, hey, I need full DR. I need, my RPO and RTO. I need to have these low replication times, these low backup times, because if my business goes down, this last attack cost me, $100,000 because my whole staff could not work. That was payroll. My clients couldn't process. That was revenue. And so you see people approaching, hey, I need to have a vendor come in live. So we're working heavily with a lot of security vendors as well to help connect them with clients, so that way they can actually bring this to people and help review their environment and things like that. Other than that, it's what I see going on in the future coming up is with a more connected, our lives being more and more connected to the internet. Businesses just have to be that much more intelligent. You have businesses bringing in, let's just use, bringing in I won't mention any names of products, but like, the camera systems that you bring in, you pay a subscription, and it records everything to the web. You pay for, a monthly subscription, and it keeps those DVRs so you can kind of maintain security in your building. That type of IoT, as well as Apple environment where people come in and say, hey, I have all Macs, and wireless, and everybody's going to connect wireless. As we move into this more, not just remote users out of the office, but even in the office where you're broadcasting your Wi-Fi, someone can be sitting on the parking lot trying to scrape off these connections and steal data, as well as hack into the system. And all of a sudden they're zooming in and seeing someone type their password. So businesses have to take that into account now with cybersecurity, because it's no longer just, hey, we're hacking in and stealing information. Now they're hacking in, they're stealing information, they're destroying information, they're destroying companies. And they're doing it through means that you don't expect. You don't expect them to monitor your wireless keyboard that connects through Bluetooth, and they're picking up the signal and picking up the keystrokes. So things like that are pieces that we're helping businesses to understand. So with that, I'll hand it your way.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Brent. So I think that is better. That is better. I have a presentation. Is that loaded or no?
I think Cesar, you can load the presentation for Andreas.
Thank you. So I want to talk to you a little bit about solving for security, privacy, and identity at scale, because security is related to privacy, and privacy is related to identity, and identity is related to security. Next. Just a little bit about Tata Consultancy, just forward. The company that I work for, and just 2 seconds about myself. I am responsible for global delivery for our blockchain practice. So everything to do with client delivery, R&D, partnership, that falls under my purview. So Cesar, if you could forward, click. So TCS is amongst the top 3 IT solution providers globally. With a global delivery model, we have over $17 billion in revenue, over 385,000 employees from 185 countries, 4 countries. In over 120 countries represented, and we have several hundred offices, delivery centers, and R&D centers around the world. And 95% of global Fortune 1000 companies are TCS. Probably have unless you're in IT, you probably have never heard of this. So we are facing exponential cyber problems, not only our clients, but TCS. And that is related to privacy, security, and identity. Just to give you a little hint, a Fortune 20 CTO just recently asked me, Andreas, how am I going to manage 10 billion keys? Why? You asked me that? Well, because certificate authorities provided by third parties are no longer secure. I hack the certificate authority, I own you, I own everything. Couple of hacks that happened just this year. Comcast Xfinity, one login. They hacked the master key. Everybody's logging from all other companies were exposed. Kmart, Blue Cross and Anthem on Bradstreet. Another little statistics. Over 400,000 new pieces of malware are detected daily. And I say detected. The rate is probably closer to over 1 million. How are these pieces of malware created? Not by human beings anymore. They're created by artificial intelligence. They're thrown out into the ocean, effectively to see what sticks. A lot of it sticks. Cybercrime is big business. And these hacks create mistrust in all institutions and businesses. So just to give you a sense of the exponential growth of cybercrime, the total data breach damage is expected to go over $2 trillion in 2 years. Last year, over $16 billion of damage from identity theft alone in the US. That's over 15 million compromised identities. That is 20,000. That is 20,000 identities, 50,000 identities a day. Just to give you a sense. Privacy regulations are on the rise. GDPR violations can cost businesses up to 4% of global revenue. GDPR is an EU-wide regulation that has impact for American companies. As when you do business with a European company, and the European company violates GDPR regulations, you are on the hook. So you better understand what that means to work with privacy, to ensure privacy. And to everyone out there who keeps customer data, you better make sure that you have very soon have asked your customers whether you can actually keep it. If you don't, and they take you to court, you can lose money, a lot of it. So customers are becoming much more sensitive about data and privacy. So what is going on? Why is this exponential threat arising? Next. So cybersecurity systems are failing, and they're failing because there are no more perimeters. Everything is P2P and everything happens in a hostile environment. The assumption that your servers that are sitting either in your own data center and someone else's data center on the cloud are actually not in danger at any given moment, and that your environment is not penetrated is a bad assumption. You make that assumption, you will lose a lot of it. Centralized cybersecurity solutions are failing because they cannot handle these decentralized, autonomous, and transient systems. Right? Just to give you another number, on a typical day, there are between 10 and 20 million unauthorized devices on the AT&T network. And there are no good solutions that can protect us at scale. Neither in our world nor in the new IoT world of 1 trillion plus devices. Why is that relevant? Just to give you another number, if every car in the US was self-driving, and we were to drive the same amount, we would generate 400 zettabytes of data a year. The current global volume is about 1.2 zettabytes. So Asia's problems are the problems in America and Africa and everywhere else. So cybercrime is global, faceless, and the threat is everywhere and for everyone. Solution: the decentralized cybersecurity, leveraging blockchain, AI, IoT, and governance workflow. So what are we as TCS doing? We have a dedicated horizontal cybersecurity practice as part of our business transformation services. So we're offering consulting and technology solutions. We have active participation and membership in ISACA, IS2, ICI, which is NASCOM in India, the Internet Security Alliance, and NIST. Beyond that, let me talk for a second. I'll give you an example of what we're doing around digital identity for smart home edge security and privacy. So you have a typical smart home. You know, you're connected with your iPad to the router, or you're casting onto your TV. Your TV is connected to the box is connected to the internet. Next. There's no real security. Every connection is a single point of failure. I enter that connection, I own your entire home. We've demonstrated that interesting experiment, we flew a drone with a strong Wi-Fi router on top of the house. We rerouted all the internet traffic. We put a malware onto a Nest thermostat. The next Bluetooth connection placed a rootkit of the iOS cell phone that someone used for that, and then we owned everything. And then we looked at the traffic, and we wiped out human beings' financial and identity in under 5 minutes. And that was not very hard. Another example. So can you go back, please? I'm not done yet. Wait. So the solution to that is every single connection needs to be trusted. So you cannot have single points of failure. You have exponential security through a decentralized digital identity on our blockchain industrial platform, internet platform. So every single device in you have an identity, and you need to prove that you actually own the device you're holding before you can make a connection to a router, and the router needs to prove back to you that that router is actually authentic and has the digital identity that has the relationship between you and your telephone. And that is what we call a decentralized trust network. So they are user-defined and have no single point of failures, because if I break one connection, that doesn't mean anything. The other connections in the home are still secure. Next. So another example here is private, secure, and seamless customer experiences enabled through secure, private, and self-controlled digital identity that enables legal framework inclusion, self-sovereign digital passports, personalized cybersecurity, as we just talked about, safe and secure e-commerce. Right now, you can force Amazon to actually make sure that it's you. P2P financial transactions, telehealth. Next. Tamper-proof and collusion-resistant asset titling. Your home, your art that you own, or the digital content or art that you have created yourself. Ubiquitous and secure government services access, as is, for example, done in Estonia. All the government services are provided through a blockchain-based digital identity. So we are investing heavily in this technology and the intersection of blockchain, IoT, and also artificial intelligence to actually detect threats as they emerge so that we can react. So with this type of technology in place, even if you get access at one point into a data center on one server, you can immediately recognize that, because they will not be able to furnish a proof of because it requires the signature, the digital signature, and it requires the public key, the private key. So, in summary, decentralized cybersecurity is the next frontier for a perimeterless world, not only for our physical world as we move, but also in the world of the cloud and data centers and servers. Thank you.
Okay, I think we will probably have some questions and answers, but we're going to move on to our presenter in okay, hopefully everybody can hear me. So I know we'll have a number of questions and answers, or questions I should say, but I think before we get to that, we'll go to Wade Barker, who is with the Tisdale Group in Nashville. And so Wade, if you are on mute, you'll want to unmute, and we would love to hear a little bit about the Tisdale Group and what you do, and cyber components to counter-terrorism, and then we'll open up the floor and discussion to everyone to just have a very open, informal conversation.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. And does Cesar have my slides, I guess?
I think he will probably bring it up in just a minute.
Okay. So just real quick, my name is Wade Barker, the CEO of the Tisdale Group. We're a small firm, kind of divided into two parts, research and development and consulting. The group of us, we're small in overall numbers, but we have some interesting experience around the world. We're made up of almost exclusively retired soldiers from all the services in the U.S., and then a good portion of us are also engineers and scientists as well, now that we've gotten old and had to retire. So, Cedric, could you go to the next slide, please? Right now, between those of us who are full-time, part-time, and our consultants, we've about 100 years combined on the battlefield. And that's around the world, not just Iraq and Afghanistan, but around the world. And there's quite a few things that we've learned from that time overseas, and we try to apply here. The two excellent presentations that preceded me touched on some really good points in the digital world, how that information has moved around. I think that folks can do nefarious things with your money, with all those things that we have in the digital world. And where we come in is when information is beginning to move, and now they're going to use that information to physically do damage to a building, to people, that kind of thing, and how that information is moved. We look at how they speak in open source. We call them brevity codes. We transpose one word for another. It means something totally different, but it's sent across something as innocent as Facebook. And we help to where the metal meets the meat in that area. We have an excellent relationship with Georgia Tech Research Institute and MIT and Lincoln Labs in our developmental side. And between those combinations of real-world experience and engineering, that's where we really shine. The next slide, please. And that just was a quick overview of me. I was retired from the Army. I'm also a mechanical engineer, and then was at Georgia Tech for 5 years as a research scientist, a lot of in the communications area. We did some work in what I know as crew devices and jamming and tracking and that kind of stuff. So these things start to bleed over. We're starting to bring some of those things over to the civilian side. Next slide, Cesar. So these are just a few of the things that we do on the consulting side. And when we consult on things, it also gets into the development of a particular product. If a hard device is needed, if we can't find it commercially off the shelf, we can develop some things. And you can see it ranges but mostly in the direct, like I said, metal meets the meat type environment. So we'll step out onto a private company's domain if they have areas that they're concerned about someone getting in. If you're talking about water sources, power, things like that, all your municipalities. We also do some ISR type things, reconnaissance, that kind of work. One of my specialties was in IEDs, so explosives. When you've seen the issues in the UK and in Belgium of late, these are things that we get involved in. We try to help where precursors of explosives, those kind of things. And again, all these things are learned, can be found on the internet. And how do we watch and look and track for those things as individuals start to go to websites that post just not really good information they can do bad things with. We also provide some other support, linguistics, that kind of stuff, and also when you're traveling overseas. Next slide. So these are just some of the areas that we're working now in the research and development. We go from things that have nothing to do with cyber, like our composite work, but our optics work and night vision, and a program we have called Centurion. It actually utilizes existing technologies, whether it's, it started out as for schools, a lot of the first-person shooter type events in schools, where first responders, you take the people kind of out of the middle of it. When events happen, let the computers do the quick work for you. We utilize the network, and we secure that network so bad guys can't get in and create false images. This allows first responders to be on site quicker, see inside the building. So if they're injured or wounded, you can have first responder medical enter the building in one position while the blue shooters get in and eliminate the threat. All this is done across the network, and we work to secure that network. We use much smarter people than I am when it comes to building those systems, like the Air Force Research Lab. They've developed some phenomenal technology over the last year or so that can secure everything from unclassified information all the way up to top secret. So we use some of these algorithms to help protect the work that we do. We also do some work in predictive analysis, again, using the network, information that flows out there across Facebook, Twitter, all these kinds of things, and how we can exploit that to stop these folks before something happens. Next slide, Cedric. So this last slide, so this is where we take a look at how we do things, proactive versus reactive. We always want to be able to react. That's where the police come in and those kind of things if something has happened, and they can help find those folks that have done it. We take a very proactive look, and that's our side of it. We call it left of bang, bang being the event. If we can get ahead of it or as close to the beginning of it as we can, that's where we start to make a real difference. Transitioning those ideas from the battlefield, there's a lot of good information that we've learned overseas. A lot of folks have paid the ultimate price for us to learn that information, but we take that very seriously and bring it back and apply it in several different areas. I just spoke about AFRL, that's the Air Force Research Lab, and some of the software they've developed. Again, it's some phenomenal work they've done, so we can transmit a signal and the signal not be tracked. We use things like frequency hopping, that kind of stuff. Again, and that can go across the open network. You can use the cellular network, or as it is digital now, or you can use Wi-Fi and still use these same technologies. We also work in recognition software. People often think about recognition only as like facial recognition, but everything has a unique shape, color, content to it. And when we know the areas that we're looking in, we can do that, again, in an area, say, like an airport, with using the Wi-Fi network. If we're looking for something particular, type of suitcase, we may not know who the individual is, we can do some recognition work. And again, we have to secure those areas to make sure no one can get in. And the last part is, and I've touched on it a couple of times, is open source. Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, all these things, lots of information out there. And that's the stuff we have to go after. As the title of my presentation, Counterterrorism in a Free Society. Can't just go ripping through everybody's private information. But if they're so inclined as to put it on something public and open, we work with some folks. We developed some algorithms to help us look for patterns, information, but able to do that without a big alarm. It's all public information, so we just have to look at it the right way. I think for the Tisdale Group, where we really help is taking what the really smart folks do in cybersecurity part, and when bad folks decide to do something with it, that's where we can step in and kind of help prevent things from happening. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Wade. That was excellent. I think we've had 3 really great speakers here and presenters, and I know probably there are a number of questions. I think for the folks that are joining us virtually, if you want to include your question in the chat section, we will definitely get to that. But I will take some questions from the audience here as well. But I'd like to start things off actually and ask one question. You know, ever since Microsoft acquired LinkedIn, the thing that kind of hit me first was all of the data and privacy issues there and how they would manage that. And so does anybody here have any insight into that and how they might have handled that? And you know, it'd be nice if they were here to tell us, but would love to get your insights on that type of acquisition, especially when there's so much data involved.
So what I've seen from the acquisitions that Microsoft does, and then the guys might have some good comments on this. They seem to do a pretty good job when they acquire someone. It takes them a while for them before they integrate. They do keep a lot of their acquisitions separate for a while. So that was a worry. I did actually hear that there was a worry about, hey, how much of this information are they going to start going through and start looking at businesses, because Microsoft is also they're a big sales oriented world as well. So they to start feeding through the data and say, hey, who are they going to start pushing their cloud to, and when are you going to start getting marketing from that? But from what I've seen from it so far is that they kept the integration separate. Now we don't know that because they're not here to tell us kind of what they're doing with it, but it seems like right now I think they're handling that data integration with the actual Microsoft entity separate.
Yes, so the goal of Microsoft here is that they will use their technologies and sort of integrating it into LinkedIn itself, such that you can, for example, start to have the provenance of the claims that are made on LinkedIn about yourself, right? So how do I know that you actually work at Tata Consultancy services, right? How do I know that this profile is actually legit? So there's a lot of stuff that Microsoft can do to add to their services that they have to that. And with their reach into businesses, can then validate those claims and have that displayed, so you can have more insight and trust into what is displayed on LinkedIn. Obviously, there's significant issues around privacy, but you're willingly sharing that information, right? So you have, if you look at the T's and C's, there's the T's and C's of Facebook and Google. Everything that you post, that you put out there, belongs to them. So they can do with that whatever they want legally. There's no issue with that. So you have any IP on Google Drive? Tough luck. Google owns it. So the business value for Microsoft on LinkedIn is clear. You can now then write blogs through Office 365. You push it out directly, and it's going to be a lot more public in terms of marketing is going to be more efficient. Recruiting is going to be more efficient. They want to have place in that space because that's how they profit.
I'll go ahead and ask another question here, just from an overall sense, and then we'll open it up actually. So just from an overall sense, I mean, obviously we're seeing a lot in the news these days, everything from, hacking the elections to banking and the Target issue not too long ago. So at this stage, from a technical perspective, what do you all see? We're having some bounce back here, but what do you all see as the main real global threat, and what are some of the solutions that TCS and ScaleMatrix and the Tisdale Group and others are really working on?
So one of the things that you see coming out in technology today is down to the chip processor, chip manufacturers like Intel and NVIDIA. They're building security now into the chip to protect that hardware, because there's a lot of intelligent malicious groups out there that are finding their ways, or they're coming from places that have built these the systems. And so a lot of these manufacturers are actually building security into the chips. The chip protects itself. There's no way for them to go through the chip into the BIOS. So then that way they take over one system, which eventually gives them access to your whole network. As well as you see a lot of the banking industry. I use them. There's a couple banking. I was at a high compute conference and spoke with a couple banking industry out there, and they're actually setting up their own honeypots now to catch people. So that way they basically set up these nets where people will go and try to hack them. They actually figure out it's all fake information, but they'll see exactly how they hack them, and then they'll go now add that security to their actual system. And it's a very unique way to entice people to come and hack, and then like, okay, well, they got in this way, we'll block that over here. And that's a great way that if you have the resources, of course, to do that, that's a great way to protect your system if you're a large company. But then that's where connecting with someone that can do that for you, or take all that information that's already been discovered and then introduce it into your network is a big piece.
Hacks are like icebergs. The ones that you read about, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. The ones that are really significant, you will never hear about, ever. Because would you trust your banks? Would you trust the airlines? Would you trust to get on a train? The Office of Personnel Management, they could not avoid that, but that's 17 million fingerprints out in the open, being sold on the dark web right now. It's actually very instructive. If you haven't done that, I really encourage everyone to download Tor and explore the dark web, because about 98% of all the content on the internet is on the dark web. It's very instructive, very instructive. The biggest threats right now are not the ones that are the ransomware. What's a much bigger threat are the ones that are hacking the systems. And they're so sophisticated, they cannot, they're traceless. They're just simply, they're going on. It's similar to sort of like Stuxnet was sort of like the first one of that breed that checked, hey, are you, once it's installed itself, are you connected to this particular type of device or server? Not, and it was removed. It has gotten a lot more sophisticated. What we're seeing on the rise is a lot more trusted execution environments until SGX. Which every Intel chip, I think, past the i5 already has built in, that allows you to create a effectively a black box on your computer that no one can see in from the outside. The challenge is that Intel holds a lot of the private keys for the deployment. Again, that is an issue. An alternative to that is Graphene OS. We're actively looking into that because trusted execution environments actually then run on smart devices is what is going to be popularized over the next 2 to 3 Moore's law cycles that we see as the compute capability increases on your smartphones. You'll see much more of those secure zones being implemented. You might have heard of the black phone, which is an Android phone, high security burner phones. That will come more and more into play. Also, there's a significant threat. There's still zero-day threats. You know, the NSA exploits were spilled, but those were not the only ones. So there's still a lot more out there that are really critical. And again, we are of the opinion that you need to be not reactive but proactive, and that you need to remove single point of failures. So what we're doing is we're systematically working with companies to implement decentralized security, where the assumption is that everything that is done is potentially corrupted. So everything that is done needs to prove itself that it was done in a way that is expected and that is provable. That tends to be expensive, but once you have it implemented for your the high critical systems, it makes a whole lot of sense. So, for example, when you deploy a VM image, we're actually creating a digital identity for that image, and the process, the provisioning service needs to say that, prove that it created it, right, with a digital signature that's time bound and so forth. So, and then it needs to prove that yes, this actually came from it. Here's the cryptographic proof. So it's very involved. However, it provides security because it removes single point of failures.
Katal?
Yeah, I was actually just going to point it to you, Wade, and see if you could share some of your thoughts also, and with some of the clients that you work with and things that you're seeing in the military and counterterrorism.
Yes, ma'am. So for us, it's the individuals that are less overt. They sit quietly. They'll speak. No one ever really listens. All the while, they're building a nice, patient plan. They allow others to do the heavy lifting for them. Information is posted openly of this problem, that problem. They eventually notice the weakness. And in that, they've taken the time to use all the open source that's out there. I see open source as the biggest problem. It just is that. It's open to everybody. Everything from, if you want to start hacking, you can, all kinds of open source code that's available. No one tracks any of these things. All this stuff floats around, and they just quietly move about their merry way. What happened at 9/11 was a very patient, long, laid out plan that no one was even paying attention to. The signs were there, but we just didn't know where to look. This is where being proactive for everyone. It doesn't mean put it up giant walls. It just means being vigilant. Much like locking the front door of your house, closing the back door, making sure the garage door is shut. It's not difficult. It's just being proactive. And in being that type of proactive, it really makes a huge difference. Because everything that you need to be extremely destructive is readily available at Walmart, Tractor Supply for a few $100s. So that's where our biggest concern is.
So I would like to open it up to the floor and to our virtual participants. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them then. Yes.
Curious as to the bad guys out there. I'd appreciate if you might be able to have explain to who the bad guys are, what are they after, what types of people, organizations, governments, companies, whatever. I'm sure there are different motivations, financial, sabotage, leverage, whatever. Can you give us a picture of the biggest threats and who they are, what they're after?
So I'm going to repeat that just in case it didn't come up on the audio online. But so the question is from Rick Moore, who's with Research on Investment, and the question is, what is the motivation? What are the things that they're going after, and how can you resolve that?
Well, I've heard that question a few times at some of the events that I've spoken at, where the question, the main phrase is, who are the big guys you're looking at, and who are they trying to attack? What is their motive that they're attacking? What I see from my side, in the service provider side, data center side, you see a lot of big attacks today, but those are the ones that catch the news. You see the one that happened a few months ago where someone was trying to hold Apple ransom, saying they got a bunch of passwords, they're going to go wipe everybody's device. You see, a lot of people coming, trying to hack banks, different things like that. But again, those are the ones that make the news. What I've seen today happen is the hackers are trying to get into the everyday business and to sit there. What happens is they're putting something in there, they're putting an access piece there, and then it's not necessarily hurting the business today. It doesn't spread out, or maybe it does slowly spread, depending on what they put in there. But I have seen companies grow, and they've moved from location to location in terms of data center, or maybe from on-premise to into a data center, and they kind of carry that virus that's there with them. And then as they're at a good point, essentially it's almost like a time bomb that all of a sudden everything's down. And so I've had clients that have reached out to us to support, and they're like, I don't know what's happening. We're co-located with you guys and everything's down. And so we're like, hey, we're going to jump in. We're going to help you guys figure out what's going on. So our staff, from our networking, virtualization, our security staff, all jump in and try to figure out what's going on for this client. And they find some part of some files that have been nested there for a long period of time, and they've just kind of grown and spread to all their systems. And they had more of like a trigger date, I guess what I would call it. So yeah, I see that. I've seen that a few times happen, and I believe that depending on who either the group or the individual is, they might have a certain problem with certain, or they might just be looking for very easy, open, hey, let me try to get into here, and then they put that little nest file. So that's one of the things I'd say to look out for, is making sure you're always scanning your system, checking your system. Is there anything that you don't know about that's checking back out to the internet? Like, what is this one thing that pings every week out? Those things we've caught, and help people kind of pull those out of the systems. And having everything from a good antivirus system in there can help, because you get a lot of companies that they grow very, very rapidly. They don't necessarily at the beginning have financials to kind of buy antivirus, buy a great firewall, buy the right reporting, and they're going to slowly add it later, but sometimes it's too late. So you got to start getting those things added so that we have the right measures in place to understand what's going on.
It is an ecosystem. It's a very large, diverse ecosystem. You have Chinese hackers that hack for the People's Army during the day, and hack for the Ukrainian mob at night. They're well paid. You can buy, bootkits, ransomware, including customer support, for $1,000. And you can become your own, hacker operation with, very little. And obviously the large players are the services, intelligence services, the FSB, Chinese People's Army. They are protecting their own. A couple of guys tried to hack Putin's money. They survived less than 24 hours. So things like the real threat arises from these highly sophisticated hackers that place these time bombs. They hack your system. They create botnets. So the DNS attack last year was effectively a little test to their botnets that are currently being assembled, that are significantly larger. We're talking about 10 million plus devices, and their botnets for hire. So you want a botnet for a DDoS attack? Sure. You can rent it. Your devices at home are very likely part of DDoS attacks. You just don't know it. So, and that, there are botnets available that are effectively work like atom bombs, right? They're that big that they can effectively shut down the internet in the United States for weeks if they want to deploy it. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just they're just going to flood up. They turn off the cameras. They do it. They have millions, hundreds of millions across the globe. So it's it's interesting. Drones are on the rise. That's also a big threat that comes more and more. Airports. I'm sure, Walter, you're well aware of that and are highly concerned not only about the amateur pilots, but the drones that are then taken over in mid-flight by malicious actors and then used as weapons, or cars that are being hacked. Again, for ransom. Medical devices being hacked. That is on the rise. You have an insulin pump that you control through your phone. Bad idea. The same thing with a pacemaker. Not a good idea. And that is, as IoT devices spread more and more, this is going to be the biggest threat. So walking in here, if I walk in here with a compromised phone and I connect to the network, and if I'm an employee, that can be. I don't need to put malware. I can just listen to the traffic and be patient, wait, and then attack when the biggest hacks, again, as I said, you've never heard about it because they are related to national security.
Wade, please chime in if you'd like on this. What do you think are the motivations, and what are they after?
Sorry, I couldn't get it off mute there. It's interesting. So we see it as two parts. If you take overseas time, what you find is you have what most people are after, which is money and power. And then they use that money and power through intimidation to get actors to execute those missions. At the end of the day, everybody wants money and power. It's what runs everything. They want to take it in any way they can. If they can get it quietly through the internet, they will. If they can't, they'll punch you right in the face and take it. And our biggest concern is that disenfranchise, young, old, has nothing to do with religion or anything else. Anybody who has had a loss, anything that's taken away from them can be exploited. And they'll use the internet to exploit those things. So through Facebook and everything else, and that imminent threat, that ability to take someone who just is just having a bad day and just things just aren't going well for them and twist them just enough pass them a little bit of information, let them run with it. And they're out there all alone. No one knows they exist. You never even see them coming. They're not going to take an airplane. They're not going to do anything fancy like that. They're going to walk into a building that hasn't been proactive, say like an airport. If you think about an airport, you can go from your home all the way to the TSA counter and no one ever knew you were there. If you're in Atlanta, there's 5,000 people on a Monday morning standing there that no one has ever talked to. Any one of those people could be doing that. And they're in a tamped room, multi-foot thick concrete in all directions, drop off whatever they had, never even made it to TSA. So this is where we see it. Those are our horrible fears that keep me up at night.
So I think we've pretty well covered the threats part of this conversation. Maybe what we can do is shift gears just a little bit and go to the opportunities side. And if you can sort of let us know, if you're able to, where a lot of your business gets conducted. You don't have to necessarily share who your partners are, but where in the world, does most of your business come from? And where are you seeing the hottest activity? And, where do you do business primarily, whether it's regionally, nationally, or internationally? So maybe Wade, we can start with you.
Sure. For us, a lot of it, we do a lot of work with the FFRDCs, Federally Funded Research and Development Centers, developing new technologies, both for the battlefield as well as for DOJ. We also have some folks that reach out to us, other governments that we can work with through FMS, Foreign Military Sales, where we have agreements, or our federal government has agreements, because as I said, with the majority of us, our background, we have to be extremely careful of what we talk about, who we talk about it to. So we just have a process. And the part that we really haven't gotten into, and it's been more of an exposure from us going out, people knowing that we're here, is working with, like I said, school systems, universities, all the way down to elementary schools, as well as larger corporations that may have a particular issue. This isn't about someone breaking into the building and stealing your computers. This is far more nefarious intentions. So we're fairly broad. It's just those few new places that we're finally getting, or hoping to get into soon, would be that corporate world.
Okay, great. And if you'd like to jump in on that.
Sure. The largest amount of our revenue is coming from financial services. It's also where a lot of the security work is coming from, as well as from industrial. That is big open holes. There are devices out there, PLCs, still from like the 1980s. They still work. There's no security. They're open. So there are companies that are starting to build fully automated factories, and then the question is, how can we keep that secure? So also what is recently now emerging is we're starting to do security audits for blockchain systems, because blockchain has a disruptive technology, and those of you who have maybe followed that a little bit, the value of cryptocurrencies has rapidly risen, especially over the last few months, and a lot of large companies are exploring this, and now they want to go into production with their own systems, and they're realizing that a distributed decentralized technology such as blockchain is not exactly the same as deploying a security server cluster. So that is one area in particular that I'm looking at that is getting more and more. We're getting more and more work there, and then also we're getting approached to see whether we can do security audits for startups that want to look at their smart contract systems and so forth. So niche area, but it's rapidly growing for us.
So here at ScaleMatrix, we have locations here in San Diego and one in Texas, Katy, Texas, right outside of Houston. We service a lot of clients that are local, of course, but then we also service a lot of clients that are looking for a secondary location in the areas we are. In addition to that, we do offer all the cloud portfolios that are standard virtual cloud environments, public and private cloud, as well as storage and DR services and pieces like that. Where the opportunities lie in this cloud world we live in now is the opportunity for business to capitalize on some of these services that wouldn't traditionally be available for small to medium, especially. The small to medium, if they needed to bring in a heavy hitting security service and redundant large firewalls and say the Arbor DDoS mitigation systems, I mean, they're looking at a huge sum and a huge budget to bring that in. But being able to move into the cloud and finding the right provider, they're able to capitalize on these services without having to come out of pocket initially for those large platforms. So they don't have to pay the $200K for firewall clusters or an Arbor DDoS mitigation platform, different pieces like that. So I think the opportunity is for these businesses to really reach out to their cloud provider, reach out to their data center, and say, hey, what additional services do you have that are going to protect me? So that way they can look at the portfolio and say, okay, well, I just want to add this on. Yeah, this is a small monthly fee compared to adding it at a high level. Now this is going to add this much more protection on there.
So can you give us an idea of if you do have global clients, where a lot of your clients are coming from? Is there a region that's predominant, or are they generally in the U.S. Or even just in either the San Diego or the Nashville area?
We have quite a few clients based in the U.S. We do have some global clients, and what they're looking for is they are looking to have a U.S. presence in a data center because some of the protection factors, maybe being in the U.S. compared to being in a data center outside of the U.S., they're looking for, as well as maybe they're servicing clients in the U.S. But we do have some global entities that come in and co-locate our cloud, use our cloud to provide services. Again, a lot of ScaleMatrix likes to cater to a lot of the local businesses. It's a great avenue for us to reach out to a lot of businesses because it's very, very close to them, as well as we have a lot of out in other states co-locating with us, using us as everything from the DR location to just an extra hop for one of their platforms, pieces like that.
Geography-wise, the bulk of the revenue is coming from the U.S. and Europe. That's primarily, again, financial services, insurance, and we're doing also quite a bit of government services in India. But it's very diverse. Again, 95% of the global Fortune 1000 we're doing business with them, whether it's we're running their infrastructure or we're having action on our own India cloud, or we're doing application development and maintenance services, or we're running our own products there, DevOps products, AI products.
So I think we do have one question here from Manuel, and he asks, I think we answered some of this, what are the countries, regions taking the lead in cybersecurity in terms of business solutions and education, so preparing professionals and preparing professionals on the topic. So if anyone can speak to that, that would be fantastic. So which countries, which regions are actually taking the lead in cybersecurity?
That is actually a very good question. It is really almost company specific. The more aware a company is of the threats and the higher or bigger the threat model is, typically the more aware they are. Unfortunately, when they're also bigger, they are also a lot more discombobulated, and they have to deal with a lot of legacy, which is actually a big issue. The legacy infrastructure, the legacy systems, where you're actually not running in the cloud, you're running still mainframes that are connected, with the cloud through X number of integration layers, abstraction layers. That is just that is a significant issue for them, because they're so big. They are simply prone to human error, and they're doing a lot of training. But in the end, if you build practices around security that are against human behavior and are making work more difficult, people will tend to try to find workarounds. And these workarounds are then the ones that are going to come to bite you in the ass. Right? So the best practices we found are those that are trying to blend the security in an absolutely seamless way, which is very, very hard. So it's very, very few.
Yeah, I kind of echo what you said there a little bit. I think it's not necessarily different countries that are focusing maybe better on it than certain ones. I think it is company-based. I've seen companies in Europe have amazing security practices, and I've seen another one in Europe that you kind of say, well, I don't understand how you haven't had an intrusion yet that hasn't devastated things yet. As well as same thing here in the U.S. We have I have clients that reach out to us and say, hey, because we have a very, very strict compliance policy here. We go through a number of audits, and so clients come to us and they also work with our compliance department to do their own audits as well as review all their practices. And sometimes I've seen these policies and procedures that they have for their security come in, and I'm just like, they're hitting the nail on the head there. But you got to be careful with the restrictions you put in place, because absolutely an employee will find that workaround to make their job a little bit easier, because they don't want to have to log into a certain portal to submit something if they can just go drop it over here, and you can start blocking things, but maybe they're going to find another avenue. And that's where the right training is in place. We do quarterly training on security. We have a huge training portfolio. We have to meet in a year. And so we do quarterly training, but every quarter there's a lump sum of security. And it's not necessarily the way you approach your staff shouldn't be around, hey, you're not allowed to do this. It should be more around why you shouldn't do this, because this is what problem you're going to be in this cause. And that's more the benefit I've seen when you approach it that way, rather than saying you cannot do this. It's more like, don't do this because this is the reason why, and people kind of adopt that more.
Wade, do you want to add to that at all?
Yes, ma'am. I think from our perspective, what we've seen is it's unfortunate, but he who gets punched the hardest tends to react. What we're seeing right now is in Europe, they're unfortunately just getting beat about the neck, head, and face. So they're really stepping up. France is not joking around, and they are just putting everything they can into it. The unfortunate part is people have had to die first, and that's, again, proactive. You've got to be leaning forward in that foxhole, and whatever you're thinking of right now, that guys have already thought of it. They're already working on it. So try to step 2 and 3 steps ahead of that. Because as you make that turn, they're turning with you and they're turning into the skid. Now they're going another direction. So we just see those who get hit the hardest react. Those who haven't yet, they use hope as a planning tool. We don't get punched in the face. So that's our biggest concern.
Okay, we'll open it up again in case anybody has any other questions. Another minute or two and see if anybody online. Yeah, please go ahead.
We're talking about IoT, and in the news recently, Roomba was talking about an upgrade to their product, the vacuum cleaner that scoots around your house. And one of the spokespeople there said, oh, we might be selling that data to other companies. I thought, how can that be possible? And is it an opt-out, opt-in? I don't own one, but it sure scared me if this device is looking with AI around your home, detecting if you have a sofa, how big is it? Because maybe someone's going to market to you a brand new sofa. Or if they can detect what year your refrigerator is. And then I'm getting an email saying, you know, another company is having a sale on new refrigerators. Like all of this data, I think, could be used at some point with IoT. And as a consumer, what can we do? Do we make sure that we read, I mean, the 10 pages of terms and conditions, or, you know, what can we do?
And of course, IoT being Internet of Things. So yeah, good question.
That is why Europe created the global data privacy regulations, precisely because of that. So if you want to sell Roomba in Europe, you need to select whether you want to opt in or opt out, and to what type of data you're going to opt in or opt out. And you can change that election at any point in time, and Roomba will have to make that data available to you upon request, and remove that data once you change your election, which is a significant issue for most companies because everybody treats the data of their customers as their own data, and it's so ingrained into the systems used everywhere, whether it's the CRM systems, fulfillment system, everywhere. Your name, your address, your phone number is everywhere. It doesn't have to be. So what we're doing, we are actively advising clients to actually do not store the data. If you do get an agreement and say, offer it as a service, hey, we're actually going to market your data with your permission and we're going to share the revenue we're making. You know, are you then willing to do that? That is a novel way of thinking about it. It's a novel approach. We've built systems that actually allows you to control your own data and who has access to it and who doesn't, how long, how often, and that you can monetize it on your own. So that is in light of these regulations. The FCC has similar regulations on the books. Former Verizon General Counsel became the new FCC Commissioner, and they were put on ice. No surprise there. But what we can do is we can call on Congress to enact laws similar to GDPR and educate companies that it's not okay to market your data. Or by the way, you should really look on your phone and see where your data that you're using in every app. Snapchat, Facebook is actually calling to it. It's very instructive. There's a little app you can download that actually shows you to all the different IPs, therefore geographies in the world. Your data goes from every app. It is actually pretty scary. So I would, and the companies that are profiting from that, if never heard about, right? Who's heard of Blue Kai? No? Axiom, right? Those are the big data aggregators, resellers, right? We're talking about $100 billion plus global market. And that is data that, in a way, can be readily purchased through strawman and can be used for attacks.
So the Roomba, it's funny you bring that up. You know, I've been researching that personally because who doesn't want something? I don't want to do that anymore. I want an automated system that I tell from my phone to clean the house at this time every day, and I don't have to worry about it. Looking into it a little bit, I found some interesting discoveries around the Wi-Fi connected one, that people were hacking the device. People were hacking the network, the home network, hacking the device, and the Roomba would go around and just purposely run into things to try to knock things over. So they ended up putting out an update to prevent that and different things like that. But then you start looking at things like that, like, okay, this is an amazing innovation that, you know, puts us that much further in terms of, you know, the whole AI world and automation of the lifestyle. You don't have to go back in your house. The system's going to do it. It's going to. But you know, the security piece that I actually echo on them sharing data. Yeah, they're going to share data on kind of what attachments are they going to start adding to that device that it kind of captures into the Wi-Fi to send back. Most of them, especially the higher end models, map your house so that way every time it leaves the base station, it knows exactly where to go. So now, who's going to be able to see your floor plan? There's a lot more to think of when you go into that. And then, you know, echoing what you're saying in terms of privacy policies and are you going to opt in and are you going to opt out? I think a lot of companies do put those out there for you to actually opt into, but they're so cleverly disguised. They say, hey, you know, opt in for us to retrieve the data so we can improve our systems. And somewhere in there it says we're going to send to our partners. They're pretty clear there. But you start thinking about where we're in this age where we have so much innovation and we don't want to stop it, but now we have so much security. You know, why don't we want to send them data back so that way they can analyze it? But of course, you have all these security concerns. Where they're going to sell it to? Who's going to steal it out of the company? Because a lot of times it's social engineering and pieces like that get you get the data retrieved. It's not actually, oftentimes it's not people hacking the systems. People get into the systems or they get the data by social engineering. So, I think it's where we take the next level of security, especially here in the U.S., of how we hold manufacturers responsible for the data. But it's, for me, looking at my perspective, it's absolutely I want innovation. Absolutely I want to send them the data so that way they can improve the devices, make something new, do this thing. But then you got to, how much are they taking from you at that point?
So I think we're pretty much wrapping up our discussion here, but just before we do, if each of you wants to give us kind of an idea of, what are your best practices and what do you go out and tell people about your services, in addition to what you shared with us here and kind of, what puts you apart? Because I think we have a good sort of cross-section here of a mid-sized company, a very large enterprise, and a consulting practice, but you all have very wide range and reach. And so would love to just hear, sort of how do people find you and why do they choose you, and, how do you set yourself apart? So Wade, why don't we start with you and then we'll move over to the panel here.
Sure. I guess what sets us apart is we're small, but a lot of experience in a very unique way. It's unfortunate that we're good at what we do because so much of this has gone on in the world. We our big push is being proactive, creating environments where people can move about freely. You're happy, you're safe, you're comfortable. You're not spending 3 hours waiting to get on a plane or 2 hours to get into a building, but you can still do it quickly and still be safe. We're pretty easy to find on the web. Our address and everything is on the PowerPoint. We can share that with everybody. And I think our unique experience, our unique combination of somehow a group of knuckle draggers became engineers, and it gives us a unique perspective from both the battlefield and from the laboratory, which is often lost. You get one or the other, they both do great, but so you need to bring them both together.
Our clients choose us because we know their business processes, we know their systems, we know where their issues are because we have been maintaining them sometimes for decades. You know, we're in the best position to help them or bring in partners that we have and bring our extensive partner network of large partners, Microsoft, IBM, Cisco, but also we have a co-innovation network that has almost 2,800 startups in it. We are collaborating also with dozens of venture capital companies and large academic institutions all around research and development and bringing the latest technologies to our clients that they can see how they fit into their environment and can make them safer. So that is one of our big value proposition, our global footprint that makes it relatively easy to say yes for a global player. So I think the other point is that we have the capabilities to really explore those new technologies ourselves and are trying them out, eating our own dog food, and allowing, and we're not afraid to disrupt ourselves. So we have, for example, an AI solution called Igneo, which is automating IT help desk, which is effectively we're cannibalizing our own business. But it allows you to be more effective, more efficient, and in the end, that's what our clients want.
So here at ScaleMatrix, starting at data center level, traditional data center security, that's what you come to expect. But we go that a bit further and secure down to the cabinet level. If you jump on to ScaleMatrix.com, you'll check out our high capacity cabinets, biometric entrance. So that way, a company comes in, they have a row of 9 cabinets. Normally, if you have a tech that needs to come in and he needs to access one of those racks or one of those servers, he really has free reign of the whole thing. You can actually control down to who has access to what cabinet, which is it's taking that security that much further. You don't have 4 posts anymore. You have that security at the cabinet level. But it's something we bring to the table for a lot of people looking to move into the cloud. I was mentioning around the services you can capitalize on. The provider offering you the extra security services. We do have DDoS mitigation provided by our Arbor systems, which is very expensive. You really go out and buy it yourself, but they protect you in your cloud environment, as well as all of our securities that the clients receive on the colo side also get pushed into the same thing with the cloud system, as well as our standard compliance, our main compliance needs and our practices also push down to the client. So utilizing somebody like ScaleMatrix can save especially a small business that's growing rapidly, and the medium business that's looking at adding an additional security layer to their their foundation that's already there, and they're looking at a high dollar amount, moving that either into the co-location are moving that into the cloud, they can capitalize on getting those securities without paying a big ticket item of bringing on the whole lot.
Well, I really want to thank ScaleMatrix for co-hosting this event for us, and they're, presenting their launch center here as well. So thank you so much, and to Brent Beverly and to Andreas Freund and Wade Barker. Thank you all, and this I think has been a really interesting conversation. And let us know if you have any questions for these folks after the fact, and we'll be happy to connect you. But thank you all, and thanks for attending.